Hey, welcome to the Elle Russ Show. My name is Elle Russ, and I am a #1 best-selling author and master coach. My intention is to inspire, educate, and motivate you with weekly content featuring amazing guests and solo episodes. Visit my website, elleruss.com, to learn more about me, my courses, free masterclasses, partner discounts, and much more. Enjoy the show. I want to talk about histamine intolerance and Hashimoto's disease. There's a connection with autoimmune disorders, but in general, histamine intolerance is something everyone needs to really look at. And I'll explain why. Maybe you're one of them. Let's just talk about Hashimoto's in general, really briefly. It's an autoimmune disorder which the immune system mistakenly attacks and damages its own thyroid gland. And that's the master gland of the body. You can look up all that information about thyroid on my website, Elle Russ. You can read my book, so much free information on my site. But anyway, Hashimoto's disease is one of the most common causes of a thyroid issue, and these antibodies that are created in this autoimmune disorder attack the thyroid gland, and this leads to inflammation and gradual destruction of the thyroid gland. Now, histamine intolerance, on the other hand, is completely separate, is a condition in which the body is unable to break down histamine properly. Histamine is a chemical that's produced by the body. It's involved in important physiological processes like allergy response, the regulation of gut motility, and regulation of blood pressure. So studies have shown there might be a connection between people who have Hashimoto's disease and histamine intolerance. They might have a higher likelihood due to the impaired ability to break down the histamine. So let me tell you about my histamine issue. I'm allergic to shellfish. Shellfish is very high in histamine. That's a classic one. However, there's other things that bother me too. Now, if I were to eat shellfish tomorrow, it would depend on how much and what the reaction would be. If there was a little bit of oyster sauce in some, ahi tuna poke, I might have runs the whole next day. If I were to eat a couple of oysters right now, I'd end up maybe with anaphylactic shock in the hospital. I could have hives all over my body. I could be throwing up and it could be coming out of all ends. I don't know. I did once have an anaphylactic shock experience. And then after that, when I ate shellfish, because at first I thought it was just oysters, then I realized it was shrimp. Oh, then it was crab. I didn't have anaphylactic shock each one of those times. I just had a violent body rejection of the substance. So that's shellfish. That's something serious. Now, though, it can go to a lighter response. Like, for example, tomatoes are high in histamine. So if I eat too many tomatoes, it could be, let's say I eat a tomato today on a BLT. And then tomorrow I had some tomato sauce. And then the next day, it can be compounded. What will happen to me is I will get the subterranean, painful, awful pimples. That happens to me if I eat too many strawberries, if I eat too much tomato. What are some other foods high in histamines? Walnuts, bananas, red wine, chocolate. Some dairy is higher in histamine than others. Lemon. Alcohol is a histamine liberator, meaning it can still screw you up. The people that I have known who've had severe histamine intolerance have found that hard cider is a decent alcohol, or something like a mojito. Not a mojito that has lime. What's the other one? Forget. Like some white rum could be okay. Anyway, I have created a no histamine cookbook, and I actually allowed some oatmeal in there because it is pretty restrictive. And even though oatmeal is not a part of the paleo lifestyle, I put it in there for some variation. Of course, use gluten-free oats. You can start there, or you can get the SIGHI list, SIGHI. That's the Swiss International Group for Histamine Intolerance. Their PDF is very extensive. It goes through every food, herb, fruit, vegetable, and then it goes through every preservative. I mean, it really goes to the umpteenth degree if you've got serious. Now, sometimes this is referred to as MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome. And so this is what I didn't know, though, about histamine. Histamine I knew could make you stuffy, like you could have a reaction. If I eat some certain kind of dairy, I might get stuffy. If I ate too many tomatoes, I'll have some pimples, or I might have some bumps. If I ate too much calamari, even though it's technically a shellfish but doesn't have a shell, if I were to eat that every day for a week, my body might break out in little bumps and things like that. So It's the severity of the item and how you react to it. And how do you find out? The best way to find out is this. Actually, let me continue my thought. Sorry. I thought that stuffiness, bumps, rashes were the only things related to histamine intolerance at one point. I did not really realize that it can result in IBS symptoms. So you could be having IBS issues, thinking you have Crohn's, colitis, or some kind of whatever, and you don't. You have a histamine situation that got out of control, and now you've got leaky gut. So I have seen this. Um, Histamine issues can cause vertigo, headaches, lightheadedness, IBS symptoms, exhaustion, joint pain, achy body. So then you're like, well, what the hell is happening to me? Is it my Hashimoto's? Is it the histamine? Is it another problem? Do I have? What's the best way to find out? Mouth to anus. Cut the histamine. Follow all the zeros on the SIGI list. I used only zeros, meaning zero histamine, in the foods in my no histamine cookbook on my website. You don't have to get the cookbook. Just look at, uh, now, the lists are very different in the United States. I trust a good friend of mine who has serious mast cell issues. They struggled for 30 years till they figured it all out and what they can eat. And they have said that the Swiss Institute, the SIGHI list that the SIGI Institute puts out is the most accurate. Meaning, you might look up, Google a list and it might say that something is high in histamine where other isn't. There are levels. On the Swiss scale, there are zeros, there are ones. Like you might be able to tolerate a one on there, but maybe not. The other thing is this too. You may look at that histamine list and see that macadamia nuts are on it, pistachios are on it maybe, but walnuts aren't. But then you could eat a macadamia nut still and have a reaction. You're like, what the hell? The best thing to do is when you're having gut issues or what might be in your mind a potential histamine response is to go to all zeros immediately and cut out nuts and grains. Even though some grains are zero histamine like rice, if you're having gut issues and you're having a histamine issue, you go super paleo, grain-free, dairy-free, and no nuts to start. So that's just, protein produce, meat and vegetables are good on there. You can take a look. There's plenty to eat. And then what you do? Well, maybe you introduce a handful of macadamia nuts and see how that goes. Did that make you itchy? Did it give you a response? Okay, macadamias are not for you. Then you wait maybe 5 days, try a couple almonds, right? Did that work out? Maybe cashews are okay for you and macadamias are not, even though they might be both zeros in histamine. So this is something that you can experiment with right at home. One of the ways to tell, not the gut issue, but if you're getting rashes, if you take a Benadryl and the shit goes away, that's a very good indication that you have a histamine issue. Okay. Like if I get bitten by a bee and I take a Benadryl, it's going to go away. That's a histamine thing. So that's one of the tests, especially if you're having a physical rash of some kind. Literally, though, the best thing that you can do is what you can do at home. Full control over what you are putting in your mouth. So the gut plays a crucial role in histamine metabolism. This is why it can get disrupted. So let me just I'll review a couple of things high in histamine. Fermented dairy products or kefir or yogurt. Fermented vegetables, you might think sauerkraut's great for you, but it's giving you a rash or fucking with your gut. Wine, beer, champagne, cured meats, ham, salami, bacon. Look, I love bacon. It's part of the paleo thing, but too much salami, too much bacon can build up and blow you out. Smoked fish, vinegar-based condiments, okay? Now, if it's mayonnaise has a little bit of vinegar, that might be different than mustard or ketchup, right? For you, but staying away from vinegar to start. Certain fruits, avocados are high in histamine. Citrus, strawberries, bananas, certain nuts like walnuts, and cashews. But again, cashews might work for you even though they're high histamine. So the nuts would be a tester because those are the hardest to digest, and I would eliminate them as you are going through this process. Certain spices, some teas and coffee. Teas high in histamine. Here are some symptoms. You can have the digestive issues, abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. You can have small or large hives, itching, flushing. You could have nasal congestion, runny nose, shortness of breath, headaches, migraines, tachycardia, anxiety, agitation, fatigue, vertigo, dizziness. So if you have Hashimoto's hypothyroidism and you suspect you have a histamine intolerance, you might want to resolve that through changes to your diet. And you might want to follow the autoimmune paleo protocol. On top of low histamine, you can get my no histamine cookbook. Speak with your healthcare provider about what is best for you, but take a look at the foods that you're eating. And if they're all high in histamine, you got to take a look. It's one of the quickest ways to solve this. I have seen someone's IBS gut issues for over a month, constantly every day, be completely solved within like a week or two by just adopting a no histamine diet. So take a look at that. It could be such a huge part of your solution. If you keep igniting problems through the food that you're eating, how are you going to solve these things that are going on? That's why diet is so important. And I don't mean diet in terms of restriction. I just mean the dietary paradigm. So I'm inviting you to take a look at that. If this is you and you're having weird skin issues or gut issues, take a look at histamine. They can wreak havoc and might be a good idea to just go clean, go zero for a while and see what happens. Hey listeners, over the years, a ton of companies have approached me to collaborate, but I will only promote companies whose products I believe in and that I actually use and consume on a regular basis. So let me tell you about some of my favorite companies that I can offer you discounts for. Rep Provisions, an amazing company doing incredible things for our planet, topsoil, and animals with regenerative agriculture, and it's my #1 source for quality pasture-raised meat and chicken. Visit repprovisions.com and use code L15 for 15% off. I'm also obsessed with a company called Carnivore Crisps. They make a lean, all-natural, and delicious alternative to conventional snacking, made with just real meat and real salt. Totally addictive, and my favorite ones are the beef brisket and the ribeye. Visit carnivorecrisps.com and use code PALEO10 for 10% off. I also love and regularly use Paleo Valley products. They make amazing supplements and delicious paleo products. I use the superfood greens powder, grass-fed beef sticks, the organ complex, and their bone broth bars. I love the lemon and apple. I also use their essential C complex and more. Visit paleovalley.com/promos/Elle Russ for 15% off. I also love Primal Kitchen. They make delicious paleo-approved, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and no refined sugar products, and I use them daily, from their collagen powders and sauces and marinades to their avocado and olive oil. So good, so healthy. Visit primalkitchen.com and use code L10 for 10% off. I also love paleo powder and use it almost on everything I cook. They make incredible seasoning blends, and they also have these incredible grain-free coatings that feel just like crispy breadings that you would have had prior to knowing that there's another way. So visit paleopowder.com and use code L15 for 15% off.